Welcome to Deep Cuff Channel. Big blunder from Russian President Vladimir Putin. Russia is now officially at war. Ukrainian army is advancing towards victory. Fighting on the front has never been more intense. Ukrainian army achieved historical successes in the southern, eastern, and northern regions. Russia introduced its new system to be used against Ukrainian soldiers. British defense intelligence made very important claims. Patriot air defense systems will be used on the way to Ukraine, at the front in February. Russia's looking for a solution to the support of the USA to Ukraine. Is North Korea helping Russia in solving this problem? Ukrainian army is getting closer and closer to victory over the Russian troops. According to the latest news from the front, Russia lost 550 soldiers, 2 tanks, 5 armored combat vehicles, 6 artillery systems, 1 multi-barrel rocket launcher system, and 5 tactical unmanned aerial vehicles in the last 24 hours. Spread of Russian losses in various regions shows the integrity of the Ukrainian army. Enraged by these losses, the Russian commanders ordered an immediate attack on their troops. Accordingly, the Ukrainian armed forces attempted simultaneous attacks on 19 regions in the Sumy, Kharkiv, Luhansk and Donetsk regions. Although the vast majority of these Russian attacks were carried out by missile and artillery units, helicopters allegedly supported the attacks. However, the Ukrainian defense forces carried out 19 counterattacks against Russian targets, in addition to repelling all 18 Russian attacks. These attacks made the Russian troops regret it. After the Ukrainian attacks, the Russian military units, which were badly damaged, left their positions and began to retreat. Seizing this opportunity, the missile units of the Ukrainian army launched a large missile attack. According to the statement made by the Chief of the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, a total of 200 Russian soldiers were neutralized and 20 ammunition depots were damaged as a result of the attacks. These Russian losses will cause serious problems, because Russia has serious problems with ammunition and military personnel. For this reason, they began to carry out uncontrolled attacks on the fronts. According to Yaroslav Yanishevich, military chief of Kherson province, Russia launched a massive missile attack on Kherson region. According to Yanishevich's statements, Russia aimed to compensate its losses by carrying out 61 attacks in the region. As you may remember in our video yesterday, I said that Russia plans to launch a historic missile attack using warships in addition to all missile systems on Ukrainian soil. These attacks are the harbinger of the big attack that is expected to happen. In this context, Russia has started to use a system that it claims is the nightmare of the Ukrainian army at the front. Known as the Lancet 3, this tactical drone is one of the trusted systems. Russia wants to use these systems to seize air superiority across Ukraine after the massive missile attack it wants to carry out. However, this strategy is unlikely to succeed. As a matter of fact, the Belarusian Ministry of Defense announced that Russia has deployed Tauromk-2 anti-aircraft missile systems to the region for use in Belarus. Russia's move is an effort to limit the effectiveness of the Ukrainian Air Force. Once Russia launches its major winter offensive, it wants to ensure that the situation on other fronts remains stable. However, it is not difficult to guess that such simple moves will not be enough for this. Because if you are going to counterattack, the most important factor is the number of soldiers. Since Russia knows this, it strives to increase the number of active soldiers at the front to 1 million. This secret mobilization is currently not accepted by the Russian authorities. Only Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said the previous day that they wanted to increase the number of soldiers in the Russian army. In this context, British intelligence sources point out that this effort of the Russian army will not change the situation at the front. In addition, another factor in Russia's taking this step is the enlargement of NATO. While these allegations were going on, Russian President Vladimir Putin was in front of the cameras. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that Russia wants the war in Ukraine to end, and this will inevitably involve a diplomatic solution. President Putin made his remarks a day after U.S. President Joe Biden hosted Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House, and the United States pledged unwavering support to Ukraine. Point here is that Vladimir Putin describes the situation in Ukraine as a war. First of all, Russian President Vladimir Putin and all other Russian officials have never described the situation in Ukraine as war. For them, this war was just a special military operation. Now, however, this blunder of Putin inevitably attracts serious attention in the international arena. If Putin willingly said these words, he probably wants to send a direct message to NATO, because Putin sees Russia's only rival as NATO. In addition, Putin said that Ukraine's purchase of Patriot missiles from the United States would not prevent the conflict from being resolved or Moscow's achievement of its goals. While the Patriot air defense system is widely considered advanced, President Vladimir Putin described it as pretty old and told reporters Moscow would find a way to counter it. These comments quickly aroused suspicion in the United States. White House spokesman John Kirby said Putin showed absolutely zero signs of being willing to negotiate for an end to the war. Following John Kirby's statements, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg also made statements. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg emphasizes that the Kremlin's actions point to Russia's plans to renew its offensive against Ukraine, and that the invitations for negotiations are merely attempts to buy time for preparations. I would like to state that I completely agree with Stoltenberg and Kirby's statements, because Russia has used this strategy before. In the first few months of the war, Russia made serious preparations at the front while continuing the peace talks in Istanbul. After this preparation, we saw that the Russian army was trying to carry out a great counterattack. Now Russia wants to buy time before Patriot systems are used on the front. Deployment of American Patriot air defense systems in Ukraine will take place in February. This is because Ukrainian soldiers need training to use these systems. This training is expected to take several weeks. Russia also seems to be trying to use these few weeks to make up for the shortcomings in its army. In this context, according to Reuters, the Wagner Group purchased weapons and ammunition from North Korea. Against the background of the latest information that North Korean trains have begun to move to Russia, it became known that the private military company Wagner received a batch of weapons from Pyongyang. It is not known what kind of weapons North Korea sent, but if the deliveries actually took place, we are talking about Soviet-style weapons, which Pyongyang still uses to equip its army. At the moment, no military official has made a statement on this matter. In fact, it would be absurd to expect an explanation. Russia is doing everything in its power to reverse the situation in the war. But no matter what he does, the winner of the war is clear. Victory to Ukraine. We will continue to monitor the world and especially Ukraine. We'll see what happens in the next few days. We have reached the end of another video. You can support us by liking the video. You can easily follow new videos by subscribing. I wish you all a war-free day. See you.